Episode 7, The Public Eye, The Importance of Listening in a Democracy. A very instructive passage on the difference in norms of debate among ancient Indian scholars on the one hand and kings and their subjects on the other is found in the ancient text Milinda Manha. It records an exchange between the Indo-Greek king Menander, and the Buddhist monk Nagasena. When the king fails to understand a point made by Nagasena, he asks, "Will you discuss with me again?" Nagasena says, "If your majesty will discuss as a scholar, as a pandita, yes, but if you discuss as a king, no." And how do scholars discuss? When scholars talk a matter over with each other, there is a winding up, an unraveling. Distinctions are made and counter-distinctions. One or the other is convinced of error and then acknowledges his mistake. And yet thereby they are not angered. Thus do scholars, O king, discuss. And how do kings discuss? When a king, your majesty, discusses a matter and he advances a point, if anyone differs from him on that point, he is apt to fine him, saying, "Inflict such and such punishment upon that fellow." Thus, your majesty, do kings discuss. Scholarly debates in ancient India, the text seems to say, were tranquil, stress-free events in which participants did not hesitate to change their opinions when necessary. A far cry from royal or political discussions in which disagreement with political rulers was frequently fraught with danger, and winning a debate was almost, and sometimes literally, a matter of life and death. In fact, democracy is the only form of government where rules of scholarly and political debate are supposed to coincide, both among citizens and between governments and citizens. Debates are meant to be conducted fearlessly, and in the ensuing discussion, mistakes are acknowledged and opinions changed. There is no anger or sense of humiliation if and when one is shown to be in error. Public arguments are meant to compel citizens to openly acknowledge when proven wrong and force governments to admit their mistakes and change policies. But is any of this possible without proper listening? It is said that it is the privilege of powerful people to speak and the lot of the powerless to listen. The beauty of democracy is that it obliges the powerful to listen. To be sure, even democratic governments do not always listen to their electors. But too soon as their legitimacy dips below a certain threshold, and their habit of turning a deaf ear to their people threatens their survival, they seem instinctively to know that it is absolutely crucial to start listening. Something akin to this appears to have happened frequently in India. Some time back, the present government appeared not to be listening to anyone. And although it is arguable that only a few top corporates were eventually heard, it is equally true that after months of silence on the pleadings of the people to do something about the economic slowdown, the government finally listened to someone. If only this courtesy was extended to teachers, scholars, dancers, musicians, painters, town planners, farmers, workers, and students, as well as to Tamils, Kashmiris, Dalits, Adivasis, and minorities. Should not good governments listen even to those who dissent against their policies? Good governments must make it a habit of listening to citizens. Indeed, in democracies, those temporarily in power need to develop the quality of being good listeners, sushrutas. What do I mean by this, and how will this help? Allowing someone to speak is, of course, the first precondition of listening. Remaining quiet while she's speaking is another. But silence can still mean not listening. One may even pretend to listen but remain disengaged or distracted. We all know that there exists what might be called vacant look listening, when the interlocutor is physically present but mentally absent. Even sincere silence may just convey paternalistic assurance or be viewed as a strategy to allow the speaker to let off steam. It can betray biased judgment or a moralizing readiness for instant advice. These are conversation stoppers and roadblocks to listening. Good listening is attentive, uninterrupted, and genuinely responsive. There is more to good listening. The Indian thinker Jiddu Krishnamurti put this point across well. He said, "There are two ways of listening. There is mere listening to words, as you listen when you are not really interested, when you are not trying to fathom the depths of a problem. And there is the listening which catches the real significance of what is being said. In short, good listening is empathetic and self-reflexive. It involves the capacity to step out of one's own perspective and consider things from the other's point of view. Climb into his skin and walk around in it, as the novelist Harper Lee put it. Good listening enables an accurate understanding of what another person is thinking, feeling, experiencing, and meaning. None of this is possible if one remains self-centered or believes that truth and goodness is on one side alone. Good listening further presupposes that others have much to teach us, especially those who, in important aspects, are different from us. Such good listening is especially needed in times of deep disagreement, when we forget that there are as many views as there are people, and delude ourselves into believing that the world is divided into two, us and them. We believe that only two views exist, and that the one held by us is correct, absolutely correct. This particularly crude form of binary thinking exacerbates conflicts and deepens polarization. A polarized world contains perfect conditions for people to stop listening to each other. It is precisely at such times that we need encouragement to start listening, so that we can broaden the horizon of our experience and break the horrible habit of dismissing differences. Listening helps reveal hidden commonalities that bolster cooperation. It dispels mistaken assumptions. It brings greater acceptance. In such deeply divided times, should it not be the duty of democratic governments to encourage people to de-escalate bitterness and discord and begin listening to one another? Since good democratic governments strive to be inclusive and win the trust of all, they must listen to the many and become Bahushruta. Deliberative Democrats often emphasize the importance of good arguments and wish the best argument to determine their decisions. But can we ever know the best argument if we haven't listened to all of them, or unless we ensure that as far as possible all points of view have indeed been taken into account? This inclusion is impossible without listening to voices that may have been repressed before, voices of the vulnerable. A continuing conversation between governments and citizens and among citizens themselves is crucial in a democracy. But good conversations presuppose good habits of listening. Governments must take seriously their duty to be not only Sushruta, but also Bahushruta. They must listen to the many. Citizens too must take more responsibility for cultivating these public virtues. Thank you.